Hey, what's up there, YouTubers? It's me again, Brian, aka Gamer 55551, and I am back with a My 2 Cent video for this week, for the week of January 9th to the 15th, where I take a look at a couple of stories that caught my attention and give you my thoughts and my opinion on them. For this week, we're going to be talking about an interesting situation Sony is in regarding the PS5 and the PS4 to a certain degree. We also learned about some excuse me, some interesting controversy surrounding Days Gone and Ghost of Tsushima in a way, though. We also learned about the direction E3 may be going this year and possibly the future. And Techland kind of caught themselves in a little bit of a controversy in regards of how many hours to complete their upcoming game, Dying Light 2, though. If you're interested in where I got my opinion or where I got the source of a lot of this information, links will be in the description of this video, assuming you're watching this on YouTube. But before we get started, though, I'm going to do what I like to call the quick My 2 Cents. Stories that kind of caught my attention, but I'm not going to go into a huge amount of details or anything like that. So, the first one I'm going to be talking about is that apparently there are reports that Sony has decided to switch developers for their upcoming reboot of Twisted Metal. Supposedly the story goes that the developers that handled the Destruction All-Star game didn't do as well as Sony had thought about, and decided that they were the ones that are handling the Twisted Metal reboot, but decided to go with another development studio instead. So a little bit unfortunate, though. Although I've heard Destruction All-Stars did get some good reviews or anything like that. It's possible sales-wise it didn't do well or anything like that, although some of that will depend on what Sony was expecting in terms of sales-wise, to be exact. We also learned that the Assassin's Creed Ezio collection has been announced, and it will be for the Nintendo Switch, and it will be coming out this February, which is certainly good. But then again, it's also at the same time it raises a question of, is the full game going to be on the cartridge? If not, how much are we going to have to download? Or is this a case of with Borderlands Legendary Collection where you had the one game on there and the rest you had to download? So I'm a little iffy about this one, so I'm going to approach with some caution. I mean, it's not that I'm against the idea of the Ezio collection coming to the Nintendo Switch. It's that, well, we've seen how developers have, let's just say, not every developer does a great job when it comes to optimizing their games for the Nintendo Switch, and there are times we've seen some developers that decided to cheap out and not try to make an attempt to put the full game into like a cartridge, like what we saw with CD Projekt Red and Saber Interactive with the port of The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt on the Nintendo Switch. But we'll have to wait and see how this all plays out for the Ezio collection when that was released on the Nintendo Switch this February. We also learned that apparently there are leaks coming out of Horizon Forbidden West has sort of leaked online before its official release. Some of it is that it's the incomplete version, to be exact, though, but it is a little bit unfortunate to hear that it's leaked out there on the internet. But at the same time, I'm not hugely shocked by this. We've seen this happen before with a lot of games. So for me, though, I'm sort of keeping my eye out. Anything that says I have information about Horizon Forbidden West or anything like that, I'm not going to click on it or anything like that. I'm going to hold off until the game actually comes out and all. We also learned that Sega is supposedly developing a new studio in Japan, which is certainly interesting, and we'll see what kind of development team this is made of and what kind of games we could see Sega be putting out, though. My hope is that some of their games make it over to the Nintendo Switch, but time will ultimately tell whether that happens or not. But either way, Sega is developing a new development studio in Japan. We also learned that supposedly there was plans to launch a Lego set based off of Overwatch 2, but that seems to have been shelved or delayed for the time being following the fallout emerging over Activision Blizzard, ranging from the whole lawsuits that company is facing due to the issues of, the treatment of employees, particularly female employees, and whole unionization issues, though. So excuse me, it's sort of a bit disappointing to see, but I can see why some companies may not want to be near Activision Blizzard at this time. They kind of have been toxic, and Activision Blizzard has not, in my view, hasn't really done anything to fix their reputation at this moment. And honestly, I still stand behind my I know some may or may not agree with me, but I still stand behind my comment that Bobby Kotick needs to go. He needs to leave Activision Blizzard, and I mean now, to be exact. We also learned that Platinum was preparing this week to broadcast basically their upcoming game Sol Cresta. That was originally an April Fool's joke that, from what I understand, did not sit well with everyone out there, to the point that they actually announced the game, but apparently they had to postpone it due to technical issues. So a little bit unfortunate with that, though. I would have liked to see what Platinum's take on this game would have been like, though, so a little unfortunate that got delayed, though. We also learned that Stalker 2, the upcoming game that was supposed to be out this April, though, has now been pushed back to December of this year, though. This was a response the developers made on Twitter and all. No word on what the main reason be, but there could be multiple reasons. So one possibility could be remote work, the whole issue with COVID. Other possibility is some of the fallout that the developers faced when they tried to push the NFT into Stalker 2 that did not sit very well, and now they have to start removing it. Others, and though this may sound political to some folks, may be the situation. I believe the development team station is in Ukraine, which is true. There's an issue going on between Russia, US, and Ukraine. So there could be multiple reasons why this has been delayed, to be exact. But whatever the case may be, unfortunately, those who are looking forward to picking up Stalker 2, whether it was on PC or Xbox or through Game Pass, looks like you're going to have to wait until December of this year to try the game out, though. We also learned that Platinum Games has appointed a new CEO, though. Basically, this individual is one that has worked for Platinum for quite some time. Will be very interesting to see where he takes Platinum going forward, though. We know that Platinum's been pushing to, self-publish their games, which, again, not a bad thing. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that or anything like that, but they're getting investment from Tencent. I can see why some people are still a little iffy about that to some degree, though. But hopefully, we'll see what direction the new CEO takes Platinum, though. We also learned that Phil Spencer talked to basically the New York Times, and a lot of issues ranging from Xbox to supposedly banning, trying to basically make a comment that the Xbox space isn't free speech. This has to do ranging from harassment to political views, to be exact, and it certainly is sort of a double-edged sword. I mean, there's some arguments for and against some of the comments Phil Spencer said, though, but it's still, some of the stuff I read is still very interesting, nevertheless, in terms of his time with being interviewed by the New York Times. And in the non-gaming parts, basically the entertainment side, we learned that the upcoming Batman film from Matt Reeves is being rated PG-13, though, and for some fans, the response some fans are not pleased with it, given how the trailers has more of a realistic dark tone, and some are hoping for an R-rated, though. I mean, I can understand some folks' disappointment, though, but I am still curious to see how this movie plays out, though. The trailers I've seen so far has been very impressive. It definitely has that Christopher Nolan vibe to the movie, to it, and that certainly is good. And it's worth pointing out the Christopher Nolan Batman movies were rated PG-13, and I wasn't disappointed with those movies. So we'll have to wait and see about this. And in one that I found on my YouTube feed, though, basically someone did a actual edited video of Mr. Bean in Cyberpunk 2077. Someone took clips from the Mr. Bean show and the Mr. Bean movie from 1997 and put it in basically excuse me, and somewhat of a trailer of basically Cyberpunk 2077. It is, to me, funny as hell. I couldn't stop laughing, especially the scene where Mr. Bean is going around flipping people off. This was from near the end of the 1997 Mr. Bean movie, so it's pretty hilarious, to be exact. So if you get a chance, you could check that one out. We also saw the trailer for Bob's Burgers' first movie, though. I am very curious to see how this one is going to play out, to be exact, though. I mean, we've seen trailers, we've seen several TV shows, basically make their way over, into the big screen. Some with mixed results, like the Simpsons movies, to be exact. So we'll see how the Bob's Burger one plays out, though. And last but certainly not least, and in somewhat of a sad news here, though, we learned that the late Bob Saget has passed away, though. Right now, they're doing an autopsy on that, and while I don't think there's anything official at this time, supposedly it was from natural causes, nothing, anything severe, though. But I would say that it is a little bit unfortunate to hear his passing, though. For me, I remember him from the 90s sitcom Full House to being the host of America's Funniest Home Videos, though. So very sad to hear him pass away, along with, the late John Madden and Betty White, how they passed away before before the end of 2021, though. So very sad to hear about Bob Saget passed away, though. My heart goes out to his friends and family out there. I believe he passed away at the age 65. So unfortunately, very sad to hear Bob Saget passing away, indeed. Okay, with the quick My 2 cent part now done, we'll get started with our first story. And this one has to do with Dying Light 2, the sequel to the first Dying Light game, though. Now, Dying Light became a huge success for Techland following the fact that the rights for Dead Island went to THQ Nordic, which is now owned by which owns Deep Silver, which owns the right, which that game is in development hell, to be exact. And who knows when we'll ever see a Dead Island 2, though. But it seems as though Techland basically developed the game to sort of improve upon what they did with Dead Island, and the game did very well for them. So much so, the game has received updates after updates after updates, and continues to see updates, though. And recently, the game made its way over to the Nintendo Switch, which is very impressive, indeed, though. Well, now we're coming up to the release of Dying Light 2, which is going to be on multiple systems, even on the Nintendo Switch. However, the Switch version is going to be the cloud version, which, I'm not 100% sure that's going to sit well with every Switch owner out there. Some might be okay with that, some might not, though. But in either case, though, we're looking for Dying Light 2 will be out next month. However, it has come to light in terms of how long the game will take to complete. And originally, Techland came out that said that it would take 500 hours to complete. This caused some backlash for some folks out there who are not happy with it. Some even were thinking that it could be like on the same level as like Ubisoft type of open world kind of approach. And this prompted Techland to kind of respond into this, though. In the article from IGN, get it out, it reads that, quote, Techland shared the news on Dying Light's Twitter, saying that the sequel to its 2015 first-person zombie action survival horror game is sorry, a bit coughing there, almost as long as it would take to walk from Warsaw to Madrid. For those wondering, that walk would take around 534 hours. This news took the internet by storms, and there were those who felt that 500 hours was a bit of a daunting mission to undertake. Techland quickly put those fears to rest by saying that the enormous amount of time to reach 100% was reaching by doing literally everything, and most players will be able to finish the main story and side quests in under 100 hours. 500 hours is related to maxing out the game, finishing all the quests, endings, and exploring every part of the world. But a regular player should finish the story and side quests and do quite a lot of exploring in less than 100 hours, so don't worry, Techland wrote. In a follow-up tweet, the developers confirmed that if you're not in a rush, Dying Light 2 story and side quests should take roughly 70 to 80 hours to complete. For comparison, HowLongToBeat.com has Dying Light's main story taking 17.5 hours to complete, main story and extras around 35 hours, and the completionist run takes 55 hours. It's clear the developers are holding nothing back for this new entry, though. Now, is this sort of a case that the developers kind of misspoke or basically could have worded this better, though? I would say that's a possibility, though. It's possible that they could, excuse me, they could have cleared it up a little bit better, or could have tweeted it better than how they wrote it, though, because I can see why some people might be a little bit concerned, because we've seen how some developers are encouraging people to keep playing and all, when not everyone has the time to play video games 24/7 out there, to how some people might fear this could be like the kind of Ubisoft open world type of games, which, while not necessarily bad, there's no denying those type of games have its fair share of criticism. And there are some that are definitely justifiable, to be exact. So I can understand why some consumers were kind of concerned. But it does sound like that you don't have to spend 500 hours to beat the game. You could still accomplish what you want to do in the game. So that certainly isn't a bad thing indeed. So overall, this, to me, at least how I'm seeing it though, this seems to be a case that this should have been worded better, or Techland should have responded to this a bit better. This was certainly a oopsie on their part, to be exact. Okay, we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, we'll get to part 2, and this one has to do with what the plans for E3 2022 might be, and the possibility of what could be going forward for E3 in the near future. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 2 of our My 2 Cent video for this week. And for this one, we're going to be taking a look at E3, particularly with E3 2022 and E3 going into the near future. Now, E3 back during the heydays, those was really considered a big event, especially for us gamers though. When we look at, whenever E3 is coming up, it's kind of like, for some folks, it's like a Christmas, or me being Jewish, Hanukkah to be exact, because we want to hear the latest and greatest announcements though. And some events, E3 is known for memorables and not so memorable events to be exact though. There have been some highs in terms of, like showing off like the Nintendo Wii and all, and Twilight Princess, but there have been some lows, such as Sony's presentations with the PS3 to Nintendo's dreaded 2008 presentation with Wii Music, which not exactly the greatest not exactly the greatest presentation sometimes though. But E3 has sort of, the question about its existence has remained for quite some time though, and even before the coronavirus hit and all that, it was still up in the air whether there would be an event, considering that we've seen companies like Nintendo move away from doing a E3 presentation to a digital presentation though, and that still kind of is the question though. Now, in 2020 though, excuse me, E3 was sort of put on hold due to the start of when the coronavirus started to hit though. I believe 2021 they did have E3, but in sort of a limited capacity though. Well, now we have learned that basically E3 this year is going into, at least according to VG's 27, it's going into basically a digital only though. In an article from VG 27, it reads that, quote, "With new variation of Corona sweeping the globe, the Entertainment Software Association has once again decided to make this year's E3 event online only. E3 2022, like 2021, will be a virtual affair despite the ESA desire last year to host the in-person event in 2022. In the statement, the ESA said it will not host an in-person event in June due to the potential impact on the safety of the exhibitors and the attendees. In spite of this, the association said it's still incredibly excited about the future of E3 and looks forward to announcing more details soon. Meanwhile, CES is going on in person as we speak in Las Vegas, and as it stands now, GDC, which takes place annually in March, will be an in-person event. E3 21 was officially held in June 15th June 12th to 15th, but many developers and companies held virtual presentations leading up to and after the main event, though. So basically, there's some good news and bad news out of it, though. The good news is that it's clear that E3 is still going to happen this year, which is certainly good, but the bad news is it's going to be only a digital-only event, though, which is kind of interesting considering GDC seems to be moving ahead with a in-person event, although it's possible they could limit the amount of people there or limit the auditorium and all, especially since we're dealing with the situation with the new variation of the coronavirus, to be exact. So they could, who knows though, to be exact. But I will say this whole thing does kind of raise the question about the future of E3, to be exact though. I mean, with a lot of companies like Nintendo hosting their own digital event, same with Sony, Microsoft, excuse me, and other companies, it's starting to get closer and closer of, do we need E3 or anything like that? I mean, part of me wants to say we do need E3. Part of me would like to keep E3 going, but part of me also understands that we may be at a point where E3 may no longer be needed anymore. And while I will admit that's kind of sad to a certain degree, it is basically, we're seeing some changes though. A lot of developers and companies are choosing to do their own digital presentation to sort of make these big announcements though, and I think we're starting to move away from it though. With E3 now going digital, it does make you kind of wonder, what about events like the San Diego Comic-Con though? Will they do a digital only event like E3 does, or could we see something like maybe an in-person event in some style or form, like what we're seeing right now with CES and the upcoming GDC event in March? So we'll have to wait and see what happens there. But overall, I mean, yes, it sucks that we're not going to have an in-person event for E3 though. It's great that it's going to happen even if it's a digital event, but I will say that we're getting closer and closer to the point where it wouldn't surprise me one day if they retire E3 once and for all though. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we'll get to part 3, and this one has to do with a bit of a controversy that seems to be going around in regards of Days Gone and Ghost of Tsushima. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 3 of our My 2 Cent video, and for this one, we're going to be talking about the situation surrounding Ghost of Tsushima and Days Gone. Now, recently, Sony recently put out a statement, though, in regarding the sales of Ghost of Tsushima, which was released on the PS4, and also saw a director's cut released on the PS5. Excuse me. That the game sold around 8 million copies, which is certainly very impressive for a game that Sucker Punch developed. And I will say it was a very impressive game indeed, though. Well, it was later learned following that announcement that apparently some light has come from one of the developers who worked at Days Gone, which supposedly got sort of a mixed reception when it was announced, when it was released though. I don't think it was a bad game, but I mean, to me it felt like it was the studio's take on The Last of Us, to be exact though. Basically, this game basically sold more than what, excuse me, what the Ghost of Tsushima did, and this got some fans a little bit upset with Sony in terms of how they are handling the situation though. And it also, not only that, came to light on things ranging from the Resistance series to basically the Sniper Filter series though. In an article from IGN, it reads that, quote, despite a relative well-received run of games from 1999 to 2007, the Sniper Filter series has seemingly vanished with no reboot in sight, but Sony appeared to have had one on the minds recently, and even pitched it as a project for one of his studios, Bend, which made Days Gone. On a stream with Twisted Metal director David Jeffrey, former Bend Studio director and writer John Gravins, and game director Jeff Ross talked about Ben's struggle to get a green light of a Days Gone excuse me, a Days Gone sequel as the studio's next project. While former Sony head Shawn Layden and apparently championed the game, Ross said that as soon as Shawn was gone, Days Gone was done. It was very obvious we shouldn't be talking about Days Gone while we were working on the pitch and generated it. It was clear that it was a non-starter, and there was nothing in the pitch that made the local manager and his boss feel good about it. That's probably a failure of the creative group, but it was just an uphill battle the whole time. Ross went on to say, in the process of figuring out what Ben's studio would work on instead, Sony asked them if there were any other Sony IPs they would be willing to use for a pitch, including Ben's old project Sniper Filter, but Ben turned that down. Ross said, "I had zero ideas how to reboot Sniper Filter." He later added that he was unsure if the pitch was ever serious, however, and it seemed most likely an idea to keep them busy while Sony figures out Ben's actual next project. While neither Sniper Filter nor Days Gone 2 on the table, Ross added that the team also pitched an open-world Resistance game, which Ben, having worked on Resistance Retribution back in 2009. However, with 2011's Resistance 3 largely a commercial failure, Sony didn't seem interested in a new Resistance title either. Ross and Gav's interview with Jeff follows a tweet from Ross earlier this week about how Days Gone likely sold about as well as Ghost of Tsushima, but was treated by Sony's management as disappointment, although there's been some debate about that number to be exact though. Now, apparently not every fan, not all people who heard about this, not everyone was happy with some of Sony's decision though. The idea of ranging from an open world Resistance game to not basically not seeing like a sequel to Days Gone 2 or the reboot of Sniper Filter. So it's sort of an interesting situation. I will understand that with Shawn Layden no longer in charge of Sony, things have kind of changed with Sony, to be exact, especially with Jim Ryan in charge, as they seem to be more focused on like those big blockbuster titles, to be exact though. And it's really a shame that even that we didn't get a sequel to Days Gone. I mean, if the game did well though, I think that they would at least give it another try, or at least give another opportunity to give the game, you know, the sequel maybe to improve upon certain areas that people did or did not like with the first Days Gone. Also, the idea of turning down the Resistance series, I will say that is a little bit unfortunate too, because Resistance has definitely a big chapter in Sony's PSP, PS3, and even the Vita era, to be exact though. And I really think that Sony should definitely reconsider giving that series another shot though. Perhaps maybe a Resistance trilogy of all three games, maybe for the PS4 or PS5 to be exact though. I mean, the idea of an open world Resistance sounds like a really neat idea. That would be something that could be really good on the PlayStation 5 if they ever do that kind of game, but obviously that's not the case though. But we know that Sony Ben is working on a new IP though, and they're sort of going to build upon the foundation that Days Gone set though, maybe improve upon it to be exact. So it will be very interesting to see what happens though. So overall, a little bit of a drama regarding the whole issue with Days Gone though, and I will admit it is a little unfortunate we never got to see a sequel to Days Gone, to be exact, or the idea of a open world Resistance or a reboot of Sniper Filter. I think that would be really great, and I really personally think Sony should reconsider those ideas of an open world Resistance or a reboot of Sniper Filter. Even if they were just joking, I think it would be a great opportunity to bring those series back, to be exact though. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we'll get to our fourth and final part, and this one has to do with an interesting story in regarding the PS5 and the PS4. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with our fourth and final part of our My 2 Cent video, and for this one, we're going to be taking a look at an interesting situation regarding the PS4 and the PS5. Now, There's no doubt in my mind the PS5 has been successful for Sony, to be exact, though. The system continues to sell very well for them, much like how it is with Microsoft with the Xbox Series X, though. But like with the Xbox Series X, however, the system has been very hard to find. And I think a lot of people have been still struggling trying to find them, especially when you have ranging things from the pandemic, the chip shortage, and of course the bots and scalpers, those who buy them online and sell them at ridiculous and outrageous prices, though. And we've seen, businesses like Walmart and other places online sell them with bundles, which is a little bit more expensive than it would have been, though. I was very lucky to finally get my hands on a PS5 sometime before Christmas, before Christmas 2021, though. However, it's still understandable how hard it is to find one, though. Well, recently we're learning that it seems as though Sony may be continuing to extend the PS4's life cycle a little bit longer as a way to sort of catch up for those who have yet to find a PS5 at this time, though. In an article from, if I can find it, okay, here it is. An article from Video Game Chronicles, it reads that, quote, Sony has reportedly extended production of its last-gen PS4 consoles as PS5 remains in scarce supply due to components constraints. That's according to a new report by Bloomberg, which I believe that's behind a paywall, which claims that the corporation has plans to stop making PS4 consoles last year, but now has told assembly partners they will continue making the console through 2022. The decision will see the creation of around 1 million PS4 units this year, it claims, and offset some of the pressure on PS5 production, which require more advanced chips. Increasing production will also help Sony negotiate better deals with manufacturing partners, according to Bloomberg's source. A Sony spokesman confirmed PS4 production will continue this year. It is one of the best-selling consoles ever, and there is always crossover between generations, the company said. PS4, released in 2013, has sold more than 116 million units to this day. Excuse me. PS5 has been difficult to buy ever since its November 2020 launch, as Sony has struggled to produce and distribute enough units to meet demands. Sony claims in July that PS5 has become its fast-selling console ever after topping 10 million sales globally just under a month faster than the PS4 managed. However, it has since fallen behind the sales pace of its predecessors. In October, Sony said PS5 supply issues were negatively impacting hardware sales, but that it remained hopeful of hitting its annual cost shipment target of 14.8 million units, feat that would see its best PS4 performance during the same stage of that console's life cycle. However, it was reported that the PS5 supplies could be tightened than previously expected over the coming months after Sony reportedly cut its production plans by around 1 million consoles. Sony's chief financial officer conceded during a financial result briefing in October that the PS5 sales in the first half of 2021 hasn't met Sony's expectation. Worldwide, there is a disruption in logics and mainly semiconductor devices supplies being constrained, and this is having a large impact than expected. And as you know, the hardware sales in the first quarter were less unit-wise, so this is having an impact on us, and likewise for the second quarter, he says. But I think that with our efforts and putting in place different measures, the PS platform momentum can be maintained, and especially to the users who are waiting for the PS5, we want to be able to supply as many PS5s as possible to our consumers who are waiting. That is our thinking. So to me, I'm kind of somewhat mixed on this to some degree, though. I think it's kind of both good and bad to some degree. On one hand, I think this is kind of good because for those who wanted to pick up, games like Horizon Forbidden West or God of War Ragnarok, if I'm saying the name correctly, though, and don't have a PS5, they can still look forward to picking up those games for the PS4, though. And it's possible we could see more games that are sort of maybe more cross-gen than we had originally thought. So on one way, this can be good, but on the other hand, because we're waiting to see, because these games will be cross-gen type of games, though, I do believe that means that those who are waiting for like a true next-gen experience or anything like that, it sounds like we may have to wait a little bit longer due to the fact that basically the PS5 is still a very hard system to find, whether it's both the physical or the digital version, though. I mean, this is different than what Microsoft is doing, which right now they're discontinuing the Xbox One and focusing on the Xbox Series X and S, though, which is very interesting considering that the Xbox Series S was probably, from what I understand, was the best-selling system during Black Friday. And given the whole chip shortage situation, though, it kind of looking at it now, it looks like this may have been a smart move on Microsoft to release excuse me the X and S, though, or basically the Xbox Series S. I mean, basically the Xbox Series S is sort of a budget next-gen console, though. It still has all the parts that the Series X has, minus some of the stuff like 4K or like true 4K to be exact, though, and it being a digital system only. But it seems that strategy may have paid off for Microsoft and kind of put them in somewhat of a better position than I would say with Sony, though. It's not saying that Sony's strategy is going to be bad or anything like that, but I will say that Microsoft's strategy may have been a better approach to some degree, though. Now, is it possible that people could be able to get their hands on a PS5 this year, have a better shot, though? I mean, it's possible, though. I mean, it could be the chip shortage situation. There's always a possibility it could come to an end, though, although we've been hearing it could go further, though, which, if that's the case, though, and we are still, by the end of 2022, still in a chip shortage situation, and people still can't find a PS5, it does make you kind of wonder, will Sony decide to continue the PS4, and could this mean that they may hold off on putting out a game you can only play on the PS5, but we have to make it available on both the PS5 and the PS4. So it's sort of a very awkward position, the way I see it, that Sony is in. So we'll have to wait and see how this year plays out, though, to be exact. But overall, I will say I'm kind of mixed on Sony's strategy, though. I think it's great that they're extending the PS4's life cycle and haven't discontinued it, though. And it's certainly nice that could mean we could see more cross-gen games, especially for those who want to get the new game but don't have a PS5 at the time. But at the same time, I also see it as that means that those who are hoping for a true next-gen system, or should I say a true next-gen experience, it means that chances are we're probably going to have to wait a little bit longer for that to happen, to be exact. Okay, this concludes this My 2 Cent video for this week. And again, these are my opinion. What are yours? What are your thoughts about the situation with Dying Light 2? Do you think Techland kind of screwed up when they said that it will take 500 hours to complete the game? Do you think they could have done a better job clarifying that in any way? Has that in any way turned you off in terms of picking up Dying Light 2 when that comes out next month? What are your thoughts about E3 being a digital-only experience this year? Do you think this is the right move for them to do? Do you think they should have had a lot in-person event like what we're seeing with the SEC, if I'm saying CES, if I'm saying the name correctly, or the upcoming GDC, to be exact, though? Do you think this is the sign that E3 is probably going to be coming to an end for sure? What do you think of the whole controversy surrounding Days Gone and Ghost of Tsushima? Do you think Days Gone was treated unfairly, though? Do you think that because the game sold more than Ghost of Tsushima, do you think that game should have gotten the sequel, though? Do you think it was wrong for Sony to turn down a open world Resistance game or a reboot of Sniper Filter? And what are your thoughts about them producing more PS4s to try to for those, while the situation with the PS5 tries to get why they try to fix the situation with the PS5. Do you think this is a smart move on Sony, though? Do you think this is great for those who maybe not be able to pick up a PS5 at this time? Do you think it's a bad move? Do you think this means that we'll see more cross-gen and not so much of true next-gen games, to be exact? Do you agree with what I said in this video? Do you disagree? Do you have a difference of opinion? As always, sound off in the comment section below. Let me know what you think. And if you do like this video, I hope you hit the like button. I would appreciate it. And I hope you do subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you do, make sure you hit the bell icon for notifications of any new videos I put up. Also, feel free to share this video if you want to, and feel free to donate to my channel if you like. You could do it through PayPal me or Patreon. Links will be in the description of this video, assuming you're watching this on YouTube. And I will see you again next time when I do another video. Hopefully that'll be soon. Until then, from Southern California, I wish you all a good day then. Bye!